Alright, we just have arrived. This is Armand. So this is the park headquarters, I guess. Yeah. So this is the beautiful view that we just came. And we are here to check in. So we have Gago here talking to the... Yo. Hello, Mr. Go. Alright. Walking towards the camp. This is our campsite. Pretty nice. There it is. This is the campground. Hey guys.
Hey. Hello.
How you guys doing?
We're good. Join us.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, please. First thing you do is you peel your egg. Go like this, and you hold it over the paper bag, and then you get rid of the eggshell. Sheehan? And then after you got your egg peeled, then you add potato salad.
Wow.
And then, if you like, you can add some Greek-style feta dressing.
You got that part.
And a pinch of salt.
Yeah, okay.
And that is how you eat potato salad.
I just missed the egg.
Okay, this is how you make a quesadilla. First you put this on, hot skillet. Like that. Let that toast for a minute. And see, I've grilled these peppers. And then I've pulled the skins off of them. So they're all ready, and I heated them up just a little bit. Okay, so then once you have that toasted on one side, then you add cheese, like that, and a pepper, like that. This one I'm going to make vegetarian. I could put some chicken on, but I'm not. And the pepper like that, and then flip it over like that. Then after it's toasted, you can open it up again and add cilantro and avocado. And that's basically it.
Chef Paul, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a good picture.
I want to jump in there.
Oh, that's nice. It's like a wooden stadium.
It's like a cinema.
Beautiful.
Hello students. Welcome to Big Basin Redwood State Park. This is the first state park in the California system, and it preserves an old-growth grove of redwood trees. Coast redwood trees, along with giant sequoia and meta sequoia, used to have very large ranges tens of thousands of years ago, when presumably much of the rest of the continent had a climate that's something like this, or something like the mid-elevations of the Sierra Nevada. And then as the climate changed, the redwoods, the giant sequoias, and the meta sequoias got pushed back. So the redwoods got pushed back to just the coastal strip, and they live from Big Sur up to a little bit beyond the Oregon border, just along the coast, mainly in river bottoms and creek bottoms. And so Big Basin is a big basin with a lot of creeks that is protected and has some fog, and it holds its water. If you just go up the hillside here a little bit, then you'll get out of the redwood trees. There's also a lot of Doug firs down in the basin and up on the slope. And the redwood trees are restricted just to the basin part. This is an old-growth redwood forest, and it has some marbled murrelets in it. Also, on the redwood trees, there are mosses that you wouldn't find off redwood trees typically, like Orthodontium gracili. And the creeks that meander through Big Basin, they have deer fern in them, and chain fern, and Athyrnium felix femina, female fern. And at least the deer fern I think of is, in this area, living mainly with the redwood trees. It also lives beyond the redwood trees as you go farther north into Oregon and Washington. So, let's go.
Alright guys, we're at the Henry Cowell Redwood State Park, as you can see. It is 9 o'clock, I think. There's the class, 2 vans. Up onto the trail. It's actually the longer trail of the day. So we're going to do a lot more exercise here.
Hello, welcome to Fall Creek. We're in Santa Cruz County, and this place is pretty special. It has some limestone, and there's some lime kilns that we'll eventually get to. Because of that limestone, the water is a little bit alkaline, and that allows different bryophytes to flourish here than in some of the other places that we're going. So welcome to Fall Creek, and let's go. This is Nonflowering Plants, and this is Pteridium aquilinum, a very widespread fern. If you can get a picture kind of through the forest floor, you can see it's sticking up one frond at a time. There's an underground rhizome that's ramifying throughout the forest floor, and then it just sort of sends up a leaf here and a leaf there. Again, Pteridium aquilinum, or bracken fern. And bracken ferns, when they first come up, people sometimes pickle the fiddleheads, the very young fronds. All right, that's all I have to say about that. This is Athyrnium felix femina, or the female fern. And unlike Dryopteris, if you look at the way that the pinnae are arranged, they get smaller and smaller as you move down the frond. Whereas in Dryopteris, the pinnae at the base are almost as large as the pinnae at the midpoint for Dryopteris. So this is Athyrnium felix femina, the female fern, and it likes to grow along pretty wet places along streams. Hello students, I want to talk about the photography that I'm doing for the mosses. So I have a macro lens, and that's important. But then the real important thing is to have a ton of light. So I have these 2 slave flashes and then a master flash, and the master flash meters the whole thing, and it flashes the slave flashes at the same time. That allows me to go to aperture preferred. And because I have aperture preferred, I can adjust the f-stop down to a tiny, tiny hole, and that gives me greater depth of field. So I have this at f22, which gives me quite a bit of depth of field for the mosses. The other thing that's important to do is to adjust the light. So after you've taken a picture, you decide whether there was too much light or too little light, and then you hold down this little button here, and then adjust the light to add more or less than the one that you took as a starter picture. And that's really all there is to it.
Okay, that's poison oak. You don't touch that, that'll mess you up. So just
You touch it,
that.
you not touch it.
Yeah.
Just a quick video. We're in Santa Cruz, and I just want to teach you guys something. If you guys are really hungry, these are called oxalic acid, which I'm sure you're familiar from the Krebs cycle or TCA cycle. Alright fellows, we're in the middle of the jungle. So freaking hungry. We ain't got nothing to eat but this. It's a pretty cool lemony taste, maybe tangerine. So I'm highly recommended if you're starving, ain't got nothing to eat. This will save your ass. Wow.
This is not the same species as Kimmerer studied, but it's related to it. And actually, you know, the Connocephalum might not be the same either, even though it's got the same name. You know, they could have cryptically become separate ecotypes or species, right? So, see, look at this. It's huge for Epiphysidens, right?
Wow.
The way that this deer fern works is it has fronds that are at the base that are sterile. They don't make any sporangia, and they do a lot of photosynthesizing, and they're kind of broad. And then later in the season, it'll send up fertile fronds that have sporangia and much less photosynthetic surface area. And these are last year's. They're starting to send up this year's now. This is deer fern, Blechnum spicant. Hello students, we're at Fall Creek and we finished up our trip. So we saw a number of things on soil banks like Epipterygium tozeri. There was a great Epiphysidens. There was also Calopagia with Jimmy at the tips of the branches. Atricum Selwenii was the great big thing that was growing on the soil banks. And then on trees, on hardwood trees, we saw Bryodlautonia vancouverriensis with the tiny little leaves and the complanate form. And that looks a lot like Paratricum bigelovii, which we saw in the wetter places on soil and rock right along the creek and in little wet nooks higher up. There were a lot of ferns that we also saw, including Athyrarium felix femina, which we saw mainly along the creeks, and it made a bed of ferns in the gully. We saw a little bit of Woodwardia fimbriata in that same kind of habitat. On more upland areas, we saw Pteridium aquilinum kind of creeping through the forest floor. And then there was a lot of Polisticum. We saw Polisticum unitum throughout the trail. And then in the limestone area, we saw Polisticum dudleyi. And there was a lot of Polypodium growing on the rotten logs and on rocky banks. Finally, we saw Equisetum, subgenus Equisetum, in a few places along the stream. Maybe I shouldn't have said finally. We visited a little seep, and at that seep we saw a Nora. This is a simple thallus liverwort, and with it was growing a different species of hornwort, probably a Phaeoceras. And we saw a lot of different species of hornwort, the first species of hornwort, the other species of hornwort on soil banks. That's all that I have to say about that.
After 5 extraneous hours, we have made it. Ladies and gentlemen, the finish line.
Hello, CSUN. So we're running out of light here, and we've come to the main stream for Big Basin Redwoods State Park. And we're going to end the day with 2 super charismatic mosses. I have here on the banks of this sandstone creek Leucolepis, and Leucolepis looks like little palm trees. And then down here is the coup de grace. This is Rhizonium glabrescens. Great big leaves. Just a beautiful plant. Good night and good luck.
Alright guys, today is the second day, Saturday evening. We have Paul here cooking. Hi Paul.
Hi.
How you doing?
Alright.
What's going on?
Quesadillas.
Yeah.
Trying to feed the people.
Nice, nice. You see guys, so you're not gonna starve. Paul will be the survivor. So as you can see, we have the cars parked over here. pretty close to the camp, and we have our tents. This one is Paul's. Don't even get close to it. And this one is ours. How you doing?
Hello. Good.
Armand, how's your hand, bro?
It's not Armand, bro.
Go.
Close enough, Gogo.
Close enough.
Yeah, they sounded like two, huh?
Jason. Alright.
RJ, what's going on, man?
Justin, just kidding. Alright, gotta mess around with people because it's camping and it's fun. One stone, two birds.
Or you just can't remember names that way.
That can be part of it.
Hello students, we're at the watering hole at Sequoia Reserve RV Park, and this is a kind of typical rock here. It's underneath an oak, and that increases the shade a little bit. These rocks that have a little bit of shade have lots of species of mosses on them. On the top we find Grimmia levigata, and that's a kind of cool moss. People have looked at the molecular genetics of Grimmia levigata and concluded that there are two species that you cannot tell apart, but that historically have not been related to each other for quite a while. And we don't know if they're ecologically separate from one another, but they're not biogeographically restricted to different areas. So they have the same general geographic range. So that's Grimmia levigata. Something that looks a lot like Grimmia levigata, but it's on the sides of the rocks more typically, is Hedwigia datanza. The reason why they're similar is because they both have really strong white hair points, glassy hair points. There's also Grimmia, probably Lisi, or anyway, some other kind of Grimmia that's on the side of this rock and is green rather than being blackish. And then also on the side of the rock we find Orthotrichum. I'm not sure which species. There's a Bryum up here, maybe Gemma Bryum something or other, I'm not sure. Anyway, this one rock, you can see the niches of maybe 6 different mosses. The zone that we're in, that is this sort of oak savanna area that's out of the valley but not in the conifer zone, it's the richest in bryophytes. And when you think about it, it's probably because these bryophytes, they do really well in the winter time when they're dependent on the fog that kind of rolls in over the valley and they get a little bit moist, and they do a lot of photosynthesis during fog and rain. Whereas as you move higher up into the mountains, then rocks like this would get covered in snow, and so the bryophytes wouldn't do that well during the winter time, and then during the summertime everybody's too dry for mosses to do much photosynthesis. So this is really the best place for mosses in this transect we're going to follow as we go up the mountains. Hi, we're up in the giant sequoia forest, and we should probably think about the moss habitat in maybe just sort of 2 ways. There's the moss habitat that's along streams, and then there's the moss habitat that's on rocks and on dry logs and on soil banks. For the mosses that are on dry places, we find the highest diversity down below in the foothills, and then as you come up you get less and less diversity in the dry spots. In the streams, if anything, it goes the other direction, but let's just say it's even, that the streams down low have mosses, the streams up high have mosses, but they're different mosses. The mosses change as you go up in elevation. So here's Fontinalis antipyretica, and this is a beautiful specimen here. We should savor this one and pass it around and take a look at it. Fontinalis is of fountains. It lives in fountains. It lives in really pure water. Like if you get a little bit of pollution, it's gone. And the leaves are in 3 ranks. There are some other mosses that are in streams as well. There's some that are restricted to great big streams, like rivers. And then most of them are in streams that are perennial, but not great big streams. Okay, so I'll do that. The streams, the mosses in the streams, they change gradually as you go up the mountain, and you can find mosses in all the streams. And then up at the very top, where you've got wet seepages and wet meadows in the subalpine zone, then you'll find a whole set of really cool mosses. For the mosses of dry spots, it's actually not that bad right here in the giant sequoia forest. There's some special mosses that live on rotten logs that you get, and then the mosses of the rocks, they're kind of monotonous. They're not as good as down below, but they're okay. As soon as you get out of the giant sequoia forest and you move up the slope into the red fir forest, that's like 2,000 meters elevation. That's sort of death zone. There's not very many mosses in the dry spots, just a couple things on the rocks and hardly anything that grows on the trees or on the rotten logs. And that's really all that I have to say about that. Hi, we're down low at Potwisha in Sequoia National Park, and this is Polytrichum pileferum supposedly. There's also Polytrichum pileferum in the subalpine zone of the park, and I think this one is much larger, and so I would guess that this is a cryptic species. That is, it's a species that's separate from the high elevation ones, but it has the same name, and nobody's ever recognized it because it differs mainly in ecology and size. Hello students, we're at the end of our travels. We're in the Tehachapi Mountains on the Mojave side. So we're seeing a desert flora that's associated with, I guess you'd say, the juniper zone. There's California juniper around and about, and here's ephedra. And we've seen a number of mosses. The most abundant moss is probably Centrichia cananervis, and then there's some kind of a bryaceous thing that's pretty common. We've seen a couple other Podiaceae besides that, and that's all to say that there are bryophytes in the desert. We'd also find those same bryophytes down in the desert floor. So this is Paul Wilson signing off for Nonflowering Plants 2015.
Wild troll under the bridge in its natural habitat. On our way to Big Basin State Park. We're almost there. And this guy's driving, we're never gonna get there though. But then this guy's already sleeping. Aryan, say cheese.
Okay, it's almost 1 o'clock. All of us are starving, right? Are you guys hungry?
Very hungry. Yes, so hungry.
Are you hungry?
Yep.
Everyone is starving. Oh my God, Paul, stop not feeding us.
What do we want? Food. When do we want it? Now.
Food.